Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Leafwire's Industry Trailblazers, where we speak with and learn from some of the industry's true pioneers. Amy Donohue is a 13-year cannabis industry veteran focused on professional and compliant social media and marketing. She got her medical marijuana card in 2011 after donating a kidney and learned how to manage chronic pain with cannabis and psilocybin. Amy was one of the first members of the Phoenix chapter of Women Grow. She's a co-founder of Hybrid Social and also co-founded CannaFriends, an Arizona cannabis networking group. Amy, welcome to Industry Trailblazers.
Thank you, Mike.
Well, let's just jump right in. Thanks for joining us today. And maybe we could start by hearing how you got started. How did you, I alluded to that a little bit with your intro there, but tell us more about how you got into the cannabis industry.
Well, I had already been doing social media for a living for local businesses here in Arizona. I started with some car dealerships, commercial real estate, and then a rolling paper company found me on, I think it was LinkedIn. I've been on LinkedIn for 21 years now, so that's usually my hub. And I learned a lot about the cannabis industry, but I learned a lot about business working with them. That was 2012. And within a year, they lost their brand because they never trademarked anything. So it's no longer available. It was
Cautionary tale.
It is something that every client that approaches me, I ask them, have you trademarked? Because it is extremely important. Because if Leafwire didn't trademark, I could go ahead and start my own Leafwire website and my own Leafwire podcast, and you really can't do anything about it. Now, I don't know the whole law, the laws regionally and everything like that, but I have an amazing IP lawyer that I send my clients to when they're ready for that, because I find that, and this is not to throw shade at anybody in the industry, but the industry is full of entrepreneurs. We're open to all new ideas, new product ideas, everything. But if you've never run a business before, you're probably not going to make it. There are basics you need to know. And, branding is super important. Nobody understands branding. They think, oh, I got a logo. That's not branding, that's a logo. And if you paid $5 for it on Fiverr, it's probably not compliant with trademarking. It could have violated copyright laws by that person stealing from somebody else. So it's really important to have proper branding, name your company properly. We don't need canna, ganja in names anymore. That's just not going to fly with marketing. And all of that does roll into social media. If you have canna in your name or URL, you're going to get shadow banned. Your MailChimp is going to get shut down because you didn't take the time to talk with professionals yet. It's a business. And so you need to really get investors, save money, however you need to do it. You have to start out properly if you want to be successful, because getting shut down on Instagram is not cool. Getting shut down on Facebook is not cool. It's not a badge of honor. What that says to me is you didn't start your business properly.
Well, this is really so relevant. And, as you're aware, because you've been on Leafwire since the beginning, Leafwire is full of entrepreneurs. And so this is a common theme and, another great nugget of something that every aspiring entrepreneur needs to know. So,
yeah. And I love Leafwire, and I have been on there since the beginning. And I worked for you guys for, I think, 3 or 4 years, several years ago, running the Twitter account. And I find, and this is across every network, I'll get friend requests with a business name. That's not how it works. You create a profile. I can be friends with you, but I can't be friends with Leafwire. Leafwire is not a person. So there's basics and this happens on LinkedIn too. It's not just Leafwire. But I mean, it's just understanding those basics. And I love entrepreneurs. Like I said, I love new ideas, but you have to know what you're doing in business. Take a community college course. There's so many free resources out there. Go to YouTube, how to start a business. That stuff is out there, but people just go head first into things without really understanding the business side of the industry. And it's frustrating to me because I want to help end stigma with cannabis. And you're not going to get mainstream people to buy your products if you've got the leaf everywhere, if your name is, canna weed, ganja, whatever. Being professional and having professional branding helps all of us to dispel the stigma that is still around. We still have states that don't even have medical programs. Like, that just blows my mind. But stigma is real. Before we started recording, you had mentioned that psilocybin doesn't have that stigma. And it's because the alcohol and pharma and tobacco industries have been paying the lobbyists since the 70s to make sure that we did not have national legalization. So, naming something magic mushrooms, people's faces light up. I just celebrated my 54th birthday. When I go home to high school reunions and I tell people what I do now, and this is New York State where I'm from, eyes glaze over, but when I mention magic mushrooms, people's faces light up. So it's very interesting to me how our culture has created that stigma, how our culture is still so alcohol forward when it's so bad for a society and physically and mentally for people. Why did tobacco get vilified in the 70s, but drinking a can of beer in a hot tub with a pretty girl is cool? Like, it just, so much about it is backwards. And all of that creates the stigma around cannabis. We all smoke. I could have smoked before this podcast and been totally fine. I can do my job totally fine. You can't do that when you're drunk.
So true. Well, happy birthday, by the way. And I just had my birthday last week, too. I won't say how old I turned, but anyway, you must be.
I'm always proud of it. Mine was the 16th. What date was yours?
The 13th.
Okay. Oh, that's Henry Rollins' birthday.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. That's my guy. I love Henry.
Okay. All right. Well, that's more information for us. Okay. Henry Rollins girl. Okay. Cool. So, you're talking about this and you're sort of already just segueing into some of the questions that I had, which are really, how you work in the industry today. And it sounds like this is what you do for companies. Maybe you could tell me more about, is it primarily brands? Because on Leafwire, we have brands and MSOs, but then, of course, there's also all the ancillary services, all the support industry aspects that support all the plant touching stuff. So do you work across the board? Do you have who are your main clients? Who do you primarily work with, or do you work with everybody?
I actually do work with everybody. I do everything from managing CEOs' LinkedIn presence, because you have to be active on there consistently in order to break through that stupid algorithm. I work with consultants all the way up to plant touching, vertically integrated dispensaries and brands, which I like, because if I was just concentrating on brands, I would get bored. I like that I have to learn all different parts of the industry, because the etiquette is different for, say, topical versus a premium flower brand. There are different target audiences. So everything is nuanced, different networks that people will spend time on talking about your products. Not everything is going to happen on Instagram. It's knowing, well, like I said, target audiences. And when I ask people who their target audience, they're like, everybody over 21 who smokes pot. No, that's not your target audience. Not everybody is going to be attracted to your brand. And again, it's not
everybody smokes.
Not everybody smokes. But a lot of things are better, like for boomers, when we get into different sorts of topicals, and your other target audience could be cancer patients. They're not going to want the same thing as Joe Dabber down the road. So you have to know your target audience before you even brand your company, before you get that website going. You have to know and understand who that is, because you can't hire somebody like me unless you know that. And I've turned clients down, and I've fired clients for saying, you know what? You're not ready for me. Like, you don't even know the basics in the nicest way possible. You're not ready for me. And I just went through that. I just fired the client from hell for not understanding anything about what they're supposed to be doing in an emerging industry, is what I call these, because I work with psilocybin. I've helped build one of our labs here for psilocybin studies in Arizona. So I go across the board. I really can't wait for the psychedelics industry to grow, because it's more about mental health and it doesn't have so much as that stony thing, which I appreciate. I've been smoking pot since 1987, but at 54 and being a mental health advocate, I like the way the psychedelics industry is going and what it can do for people that way.
Yeah, me too. Microdosing is a good thing.
It's a great thing.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's really interesting. I feel like, Leafwire, as I was saying, Leafwire is just full of people that need this information. So I think it's really important that you're, getting the word out. And maybe you could talk of, I don't often do this, but since you're like, you've been with us since the beginning, maybe just talk about Leafwire a little bit, and when do you recommend Leafwire? Where do you see Leafwire fitting into the overall social media landscape?
I actually recommend it to pretty much everybody, and it's
Okay, good answer.
Well, I mean, it's true. I'm from upstate New York. I'm always honest, and I can be brutally honest to a point, but I still have great connections and meet new people on Leafwire. And one of my favorite Canna sisters right now, we meet every other Thursday. We connected on Leafwire this past fall, but I've been on there since 2017, maybe, I think it was. I met the founder, Peter, in 2019 at MJ BizCon, and I'd already been on there for a while. So what I like is that the feed isn't clogged up with thirst traps, which means people who write these long books to get attention in the feed like they do on LinkedIn. I'm kind of tired of the way people are on LinkedIn. I grew up in the digital era of above the fold. Don't make people scroll down to read more. You want to put stuff up front. And that's another reason I like Leafwire, because the way that the posts are created, nobody's making these long posts. They're writing a paragraph and then putting a link in or whatever, or asking a question, a call to action, which is what social media is supposed to be doing, because it's called social media, not buy my shit media. Excuse me for swearing, but that's how I feel. Like, this is what the industry has done to me, like, when it comes to social media.
Well, I may be guilty of some of the buy my shit stuff, but
pretty much everybody is until they talk to me. And then next time they're typing, they're like, "Oh, Donohue said this the other thing. Better not do it." Well, I don't call people out because I think that's super immature, but that's just another reason why I prefer Leafwire over LinkedIn, because this calling out stuff. I was a middle school and high school Spanish teacher, and that's what those posts remind me of. 13-year-olds who are tattletaling on each other. Mind your own business, put your blinders on, and run your business. You don't need to worry about what everybody else is doing and calling people out. Now, if it's like a really, really bad player and it's really going to affect people, by all means, but if it's just your issue, nobody needs to hear all of that. And that's the difference between LinkedIn and Leafwire. This is the professionalism scale, and LinkedIn is now Facebook. It's almost going down as low as Nextdoor, okay? But I know that when I go onto Leafwire, these are people who know what they're doing. They've run businesses for a while. I just feel there's a more professional layer to the people on Leafwire, and that's probably because they want to leave it Facebook light, aka LinkedIn. But we can talk openly there. I know several people who have gotten suspended on LinkedIn for mentioning cannabis. So
Yeah, me too. No,
for me,
it's
I'd rather
becoming-
be in a safe space.
Yeah, it's actually becoming a thing. We're seeing those bans increase, which is surprising to me. But yes, I've been hearing more and more about that. Yes, the final plug for Leafwire. It's a total safe space.
Yep.
You can, there's other stuff. encourage people not to talk about. But when it comes to cannabis, hemp, and psychedelics, whatever hashtag you want.
Yeah, exactly. And please, if you're going to use the hashtag, understand what they're for, because most people think it's like earrings you put on before you go out to dinner. It's not an accessory. You have to have a strategy with your hashtags, but nobody cares.
Well, okay. So, that's a great point. And in fact, this is, we're definitely plugging Leafwire some on this interview, but, that's actually a new thing about Leafwire 2.0 is we actually have hashtagging for the first time.
Yep.
So then why don't you maybe educate us a little bit more? Talk about hashtag strategy, as if you were explaining it to a newbie who's just, fall off the face of the earth and hasn't done social media before.
You mean everybody in the cannabis industry?
It's pretty.
Well, hashtags began on Twitter, and they were for search. So if you see a tweet and it said hashtag cannabis, you could click on that and see all the conversations going on around that subject. You do not hashtag your brand because you can go to a search bar and type in a brand. You don't need a hashtag. Your brand name is already in that post. You don't need a hashtag with that brand name as well. Nobody is going to search hashtag Leafwire, hashtag Juana. It's creating strategies of things that people will search for. And you don't need to use hashtag cannabis on a cannabis professional network because everything is cannabis. If you're going to hone in on something like psychedelic studies, then you want to use that hashtag. And on some apps like Instagram, they'll show you how many times that hashtag has been used. Unfortunately, in these industries, they're all shadow banned. And there's absolutely no reason to use hashtag cannabis. First of all, how many people are posting with that? You will be shadow banned. You can't find it in search when it's shadow banned, and other people can't find you. And a good example is I was working with a content creator, and we were talking to our clients who were in Czechia and Ukraine about Charlotte's Web and shadow banning. For the longest time, Charlotte's Web, the OG period of emerging industries, you couldn't search for them on Instagram because they were shadow banned. You don't use hashtag CBD. You don't need to hashtag the thing that you are.
Even especially on Leafwire, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's no point. So it's more like hashtag packaging.
Hashtag science, hashtag packaging, hashtag branding. And you only should use one or two. The more you use, the worse the post looks. It looks like spam then. And that tells me the person behind the screen doesn't have a strategy. They're just throwing stuff out there saying, oh, I forgot to put on my earrings. Oh, where's my necklace? Oh, it's like accessories for your post, which we don't need, especially on a professional network. Give me one or two. We don't need more than that.
Okay. What about, this is a thing, I have some experience with SEO. So, one of the things I've learned with SEO is that, if you have two words, the question of whether there should be a space in between the two words or whether those two words should just be one single word, also becomes, is that something also worth talking about?
Yeah, so I don't know a lot about SEO, but I could kick myself for not going into that instead of social media. I started doing social media on MySpace, so it's been 21 years.
But for instance, when you hashtag compliant packaging, do you have a space between the two words? No.
No, you could have hashtag compliance, hashtag packaging. But if your post or article is about compliant packaging, like I work with Cannabis Tech and I have to come up with that sort of stuff. It just depends on what is that post about. It's like psychedelic studies could be one hashtag. You don't want psychedelic hashtag studies because who on Leafwire is going to search hashtag studies? Nobody.
Right, exactly.
But they will hashtag psychedelic studies, cannabis studies, CBD studies, whatever.
Okay. Cool. Well, that's really what I find that really helpful. Thank you for educating me on that. Well, I'll tell you what. So maybe just switching gears a little bit. Let's just I'd like to hear kind of how you view the industry today. I know obviously there's a lot of questions right now around rescheduling and safe banking. What's your view? Where do you think we're going to be in 5 years? How's it going to be with the incoming administration? What are you seeing?
Nothing will be happening in the next 4 years, I'm sorry to say, but when you appoint
At the federal level.
at the federal level, nothing is going to happen. In fact, it might get worse. At least we have the conversation about banking. That might be put on pause until 2028 or 2027. Leading up to 2028, the conversation will be going. I think it was yesterday or today I saw an article that the new head of the DEA considers cannabis a gateway drug. So if you maybe voted for somebody who you thought would change things, that person is actually the person that gave it to the states way back 8-9 years ago. Let's have the states deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have that person in charge again, their mind doesn't change. So nothing's going to happen in the next 4 years. Descheduling's not going to do anything. Not for us, at least.
Well, rescheduling's not.
Right. Excuse me. Yeah. Rescheduling.
Descheduling would be what I think
would be amazing. I like the way New York State decriminalized and then legalized. I feel that when it comes to cannabis, I mean, how many people are really causing violence and dealing drugs when it comes to weed? I mean, there might be some, but it's not. I think the decriminalization should come first because resources don't need to be spent on that. I feel that there's a lot of other issues out there that we need to worry about. And the way New York State did it, I loved it. Of course, now they're having to backpedal with all the illicit shops that opened. But, mad props to those people for saying, whatever, I'm opening a shop. I do feel that there needs to be a decriminalization first, and I say that as somebody who has been a pen pal for cannabis prisoners through Freedom Grow for 5 years since the pandemic started. I know these guys. These are nonviolent offenders serving life sentences, and I'm not kidding. One of the guys I write to has a life sentence. He's still in there, and yeah, and there's no reason for that. I don't care that you broke the law on that 30 years ago. You've paid your dues. I mean, rapists get out before that. Murderers get out before that. Pedophiles, if they don't get killed in prison, get out before that. And we're still stuck in this war on drugs. And when we have a senior administration that's still stuck on that, these guys aren't going to get out. It's going to take something else.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we got our work cut out for us for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Amy Donohue, thank you so much for being with us. It's a really educational, illuminating conversation. And thanks for supporting Leafwire through the years. And, best of luck to us all, right?
All of us in a godforsaken industry.
Yeah, we'll see you on the flip side.
Thanks.